Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Danny here. Thank you for joining me today. Today's video I want to talk about the herringbone panel that I did in last week's video. I'd never done it before. I never tried the herringbone pattern before, and the first time was a fail. I had watched some videos on it, but it's a bit of an eye-opener because there were things in those videos that they never said or they never sort of stressed. So in today's video I'm going to show you 5 things that I did differently to rectify it so that it actually turned out. I was going to include it in last week's video. It was just a bit too long, so I thought I'd do it, make a separate video. That's what I'm doing this week, so I hope you join me. Let's get started. So for my second attempt, it started out the same. So I'm cutting off the ends of the popsicle sticks because again, that's the effect I want to go for. But difference number 1 is measuring. I measured the center of my panel, and this is to give the final effect a symmetry to it and a neatness. The second thing I did, which was one of the most important things I found and fundamental to this project, was I drew a line off the center line at a 45-degree angle, and I'll show you why. If you have a look at the 45-degree angle and the stick that's next to it, it's not even, it's not following the same line, and you look at the overall pattern and it just looks off. It doesn't look symmetrical at all or even. By placing the stick on the 45-degree line, you are creating a symmetrical, neat and really even pattern, and you can see there that it's actually right on that 45-degree line. So fundamentally, I think this is one of the most important steps, for me anyway, that I found when I was doing this herringbone pattern. As you can see here, the first stick I've placed on the 45-degree line, and that's all you have to do, that's all you have to worry about, because the other sticks will follow. Number 2, the type of glue I used, the Maxi Nails glue from Bunnings, $2.50 is what I use for everything, and it's amazing. It sets as hard as nails, but it's still really easy to work with. It dries quickly but not too quickly. It's not wet, and I just love it, and I use it for everything. And this is what I used on the back of these sticks. I used a paintbrush to just actually apply the glue, and that worked really well. Number 3, the third difference was when applying the sticks, creating a little gap in between, a neat gap that's the same, as much as possible the same for all the sticks, because this eventually is what will make a nice pattern once the actual wood filler is applied. It's a bit like the gap between tiles when you apply the grout, and you know what a difference grout makes to tiles. Well, it's exactly the same with this. The wood filler will make such a difference once it's applied, but only if the gaps are there for a start, which they weren't in the first one, and only if the gaps are neat. So you can see here the difference between the first and the second attempt. They're sitting flat and the gaps are nice and they're even, and at this point I sort of knew I'd done something right. So the actual fourth thing I did differently is the way I cut the actual overhang off. The first time I used scissors, and that was really choppy and really hard on my fingers. This time I used a Stanley knife and I scored both sides. This actually was easier than I thought, and it worked really well. It was actually really satisfying to do too. Just I scored from both sides, and then you know, you could just snap the ends off. This gave a much neater finish as well, and it wasn't choppy and there weren't any broken pieces. So these were the two panels after I'd finished cutting the edges off, and as you can see, really neat. I'm extremely pleased with them at this stage. So the difference number 5, the next thing was to put a white wood filler in between the gaps, and the white wood filler will fill up the gaps, but also it sort of stops the need for doing a whitewash paint, because once this is actually sanded back, it will give it a nice whitewashed sort of coastally, beachy sort of look to it. So they're actually the 5 things that I did differently for the herringbone effect, and they really did make such a difference. I was so pleased that it was actually a success, because it was quite hard to do. This was after I had finished rubbing back the wood filler, and then I just wiped it off with the wet rag, and as you can see, the difference here is really noticeable. This little piece here I just covered with a frame I made out of balsa wood, my famous balsa wood that I love to work with. I cut the frame into 1.5 centimeter strips and cut a 45-degree angle, placed it on the board and stuck it down. I then applied a matte varnish, and as you can see, the end result is beautiful. This is what it looked like in my upcycle. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.